Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It is the Pascal imposter, Mike Challis, or Magic Mike, and on the other end we've got Steve Hall. How you doing, Steve?
I'm good. I just apologize to Mike because I keep clearing my throat, and I think this is like, I don't know, in contest prep or when you're this lean, there's like, I don't know if there's like some elements of your what's it called, your throat, your nasal passage, and I don't know, those things. I've forgotten what the term to like group them all into one is called, but when that happens, I don't know if they just get like a bit congested. Like, I don't know, I've had clients like their runny noses more regularly, and I don't know, like my throat for some reason is like almost like a bit clogged up. I don't know. I heard it. I had interviewed someone not that long ago, and I was listening back to it. I was like, my voice sounds different, and it's because it's got that little bit of something there. Anyway, yes, I'm here, and my throat's just irritating me.
I was thinking like your esophagus, or I think that's your air pipe, isn't it? Or your like food pipe. Yeah,
sinuses. That's the word I was looking for, I think.
There you go.
Yeah, so I'm all good though. I just finished. I was just saying to Mike how I've been really enjoying my new split, where I basically moved away from an upper lower. It's so funny. People are always like, how the hell do you do a 6 day per week? Like, first of all, they're surprised that I can train 6 days in a row. They're like, that's mind blowing to me. Second, they're like, 3 lower body sessions a week. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I've been running that for years. And I think you actually also are running an upper lower, and you've been running that. We've been running that for ages. And we've, just similar to how I've scaled back to push pull legs, we've done that with you where we've scaled back. And I've personally ran like back at a higher frequency and chest at a lower, and like legs at 2, but like back creeped up. So it's always been a gradual process. But yeah, it always makes me laugh when people see that. If they saw your training sessions, they'd be like mind blown. They'd be like, that Enos study of 52 sets
literally.
for the quads. They think that's a lot. Look at what Mike's doing. No, you're not doing that much, but you know.
I'm gonna post a training video or a post of my training on Instagram later today, which is Friday. And yeah, I was kind of contemplating splitting it into half, because I think, are people going to lose like concentration just by flicking through all of the exercises that I'm doing today? But yeah, it's crazy. That's also why I don't post any sets on when I do that, because I don't want people to get caught into a comparing with me. And yeah, it's probably
post them up. You'll get engagement.
Maybe
like,
I should.
Did you make a typo? Like, well, what's going on here?
Yeah, maybe I should. We'll see how it goes. Who knows? Be controversial. But sorry.
I was just going to say it's the same with Eric. He posts up his training and he puts up all his sets, and I think he has had probably multiple comments of people being like, how are you doing that much? But you look at a Brian DaCosta, you look at his workouts, he has very high volumes. He does deload quite frequently though. He deloads, I think, every 4th week. So it's funny when you think about it like that. It's like, well, his average volumes, if we deload every 8, like I don't deload till 8 weeks. Like now I've had more time doing more volume, and maybe it's closer to kind of where we are, but it's so individual. It's like a Jeff Alberts versus an Eric Helms. I'm definitely closer to an Eric Helms and so are you than a Jeff Alberts, but you're like a step above my volume, and my volume's pretty reasonable.
I think that's a lovely spectrum, actually. You know, Jeff Alberts on one end and then Eric Helms on the other, because I can definitely resonate with Eric Helms a lot. But yeah, there are definitely going to be people that resonate more. Like your client Andrew Parkin. He's probably a bit more of a Jeff Alberts type person than us. But it's just horses for courses, or whatever they say.
I think it's I think it was because you listened to the Modern Wisdom podcast, and I think Chris Williamson did mention this. It's like a scenario, and it was basically looking at like Roger Federer. I can't remember all the top tennis players now.
Nadal,
Djokovic, and Nadal. And it was basically saying, I don't know, like if someone was to try and become the best tennis player in the world, they could look at each of these guys, and they all are very, very different in how they approach their game. Like one of them's more serious, one of them's more lackadaisical, and like someone's in between. And you can do the same with a Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, a Arnold Schwarzenegger, a Mike Mentor, like all of them. Like this, like you said, horses for courses, many roads to Rome. I don't necessarily think, though, I could follow any road and get to Rome necessarily. I think you kind of have to navigate towards your road. So that's why, like you said, your set volume is individual to you. If I did your training program, it wouldn't work as well as my program, but say my program wouldn't work as well as your program. And that's where people get lost, because they think there's a recipe for success. And it's like, oh, I should be doing, look at Brian DaCosta, he's freaking jacked and huge. I should be doing his workout. It's like, but that's his workout.
I think that's why I've always liked what you've said, where use stimulus as your guiding North Star. And if you feel like, oh, hey, I've done this amount and it feels, not enough, then okay, maybe try a little bit more. Or if you feel just absolutely blown away, then okay, hey, stop, maybe just cut it back a little bit. And I think that's such a good just principle. Go by your internal stimulus. And we might have to experiment, if we're younger, if we're like 17, 18 years old, it's probably going to take us maybe 5-10 years. And even then it might be a sliding scale where maybe we start off with a lot, but actually we can cut back as we, can train with higher quality, we become more advanced. It's such a, it's so interesting. We've got to experiment, but then that's probably going to change over time. So interesting.
Iterative. Yeah. Well, I'm saying the wrong word. Say it for me, Mike.
Yeah, you're right. Iterative.
Yeah. So you watch the feedback, you analyze it, and then you make adjustments accordingly. Again, it's where that person gets into, like, cookie cutter programs are perfect for beginners, but then they only get you so far because they're not specific enough to you. But the chat today, before we get off on a complete tangent, which we already have, but I enjoyed it, we're going to, because Pascal was going to recap the SNBF with me, the Switzerland, my pro debut, but he was like, hey, I'm not here next week, so you and Mike can do it because Mike was with you. And I was like, okay, fair enough, because we covered stuff that I don't even know if you will have seen it, but I imagine you have seen the Jeff Nippard actual controversy.
Yes.
And
I was wondering if we could talk about that.
Yeah, so me and Pascal spoke about it already. So I don't know if you have any words quickly that you want to say on it. Otherwise, we can talk about the SNBF.
I mean, the only quick thoughts were, obviously, just as everyone, just a quick, sort of horrified, reaction almost. It's always a shame and saddening to hear these sorts of things happen. But I think also with Jeff's most recent post about, if you're a big guy, just be self-aware and just be cognizant how you can be intimidating to others. And I think that was, for me, that was like, hey, there's a responsibility on me as well when I'm in the gym to be nice, to not, because sometimes you can be in your own zone, you can have your headphones in and you can be very locked in and very serious. And we talked about this before, where you're in a bit of an angry mode because you kind of need that to bring the training intensity. But I think for me, I was like, hey, do you know what? Do try to be self-aware, Mike, and don't, be a little bit, maybe, smile to people if they're looking at you or whatever, or don't snap or be sharp if someone asks how many sets have you got left on that machine. So it's just, that was something that made me reflect on. Sometimes maybe I'm a bit, I'm snappy in my head, who knows? But yeah, that was the only thing that came up. And it was just nice to see the general reaction of, the whole community as well, on his post, like, all the big names on there saying how, encouraging them. So that was just nice. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah, let's see what happens from here, because it's kind of wild to see that at someone who's so well known and popular for that to happen to. And yeah, I agree with your sentiments. So yeah, let's talk about the SNBF. So I guess where to start? It was my pro debut. And actually, I don't know who I'd been saying this to. I've said this to a few clients, or people have asked me like, oh, how did it go? Like, they haven't necessarily seen. And like, my immediate response now is, if you'd asked me as soon as I came off stage, as you asked me, kind of how are you feeling about it? I was like, I feel upset. I feel discouraged. I feel crap about it. It sucks. Because for those that don't know, I came last in my pro class. But when I think about someone asking me now, I feel positive. I feel kind of excited and energized. Those are some of the words that come to mind, because in terms of the physique I brought to stage, it was the best physique I've ever brought to stage. It was improved upon the Netherlands. And as far as I'm concerned, everything went to plan. There was no stones left unturned per se. Like, everything was just in order, and we both felt more confident about the kind of peaking process, because obviously you're here kind of watching me go through that, and we know how kind of to get the foods and to like have the timings right and all of those aspects. Because for those who haven't watched the rapid backload vlogs, you'll get a bit of insights into that. But there's meals every few hours and checking in regularly and small adjustments and having to be prepared and all of that. So it was very stress-free. So yeah, it's nice. Like I said, it's kind of, there's two reactions I can have objectively when you look at it. And if someone was to look at it, they'd be like, oh, that must have gone really badly. You came last. But actually, as we know with bodybuilding, like, it's just who turns up on the day. It's the judges panel, which is to some extent subjective. And so you can't really you can objectively look at it and be like, hey, you came last. So yeah, not an ideal result. And that's true. But I would prefer to have come last, knowing I'd given it my all, brought the best physique to stage I could, than have come first, second, wherever, and have left like loads on the table. So yes. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a few clients asking me the same thing, and the way that I described it to them was, you know, like you said, you've got this immediate reaction. It's like if you imagine you're on a football team or a sports team, and it's a really intense game, and you put your heart and soul into the game, but somehow the other team beats you. You can't get over just that gut-wrenching disappointment of like, fuck, I've put everything into this and I've lost. And it's just that immediate disappointment. But like you said, afterwards, after you've had a shower, you've maybe slept or whatever, and then you can really process it. And I think that also comes back to immediately after the show, you've got no immediate feedback. Like, the only feedback you have is just the placing. And so you can't help but think like, oh man, you know, you can't help but feel that disappointment. But then after you've had other forms of feedback from what people have said, the photos, only then can you start to get a more balanced perspective. So I think it's perfectly natural to have those undulations. And I think you said to me at the time as well, like you said exactly that, like, I feel disappointed, I feel frustrated, but you also said like, but I know that's just now, and I know that's going to go. And it's exactly that. And I think we've just got to remember that, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. You'll get there with clients when you go to their shows, and obviously we've had this, and they don't place, and it's so gut-wrenching, because I know that feeling. I said that on a post, I think, like, I've lost many times in my life. I've lost on the bodybuilding stage before. I haven't done as well as I had hoped. It doesn't stop me. It doesn't change anything. And obviously you were being very positive, where it's like failures can be lessons and they can push you forward. And that's always like, it doesn't change. I'm still going to put my best foot forward, best efforts forward. But it is tough, especially like you said, when you come off and you've just got no immediate feedback or anything there. And my worst fear, because this is just who I am as a person, is that I didn't feel like I belonged on stage, and it was like, oh, of course Steve's come last, like he got his pro card and immediately is last because he doesn't really deserve to be there. But again, on reviewing footage and kind of seeing photos and talking to people, definitely was like there and earned my place. It was a very solid lineup. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast, but the fact that had Babacar there, who's I think he's probably won worlds multiple times. He's an IFBB
Twice.
pro, or he was, so that tells you everything you need to know. Then Ramon was there, who turned pro in 2021, I believe, and he had just recently won the AMBF, and he's like a world class as well. The third placing, again, the heavyweight who went pro that day, just so much muscle mass on his physique, looked like a mini Jay Cutler, as you would say. And then fourth place, I actually don't know his name, so I apologize, but like he will do very well if he goes to Worlds, because he is very nicely put together. He's, I believe, probably a bantam, so he's quite a small guy in terms of height and stature, but like popping muscle bellies. And I think he was a convincing fourth. And I think the top four were like, the judges seemed pretty convinced by that, partly because obviously they split us in two towards the end, and they compared fifth through seventh. Unfortunately, I do still feel this is not me being, you know me, Mike, I'm never one to have an ego, and I try not to, at least. You can't really say you don't have an ego. That doesn't sound right, does it? It's like saying I'm humble. You can't say you're humble. Someone has to say you're humble. But I do objectively feel like if they'd compared me, I can see Leo taking it above me, who was Leo King, who came in fifth. And again, very good, I believe, bantam or lightweight bodybuilder. And he's been a pro for over 10 years. So he's been a pro longer than I've been competing. So that just tells you the caliber of this lineup for that individual to have come fifth. He just came second at a pro show like a weekend or so ago. So like he's high level. But I think I compared okay against him. And then Nicholas, I think his name is.
Yes.
Something along those lines. He's from Italy. And again, like this was like almost a Worlds lineup when you think about it. I think because I think Babacar's French, and then you've got Ramon, who I don't know if he's local actually, Switzerland, but he's European for sure. So I don't know where in Europe necessarily. And then I actually don't know where the fourth guy came from, but obviously Italy. So you've got me from the UK. So we're spread from all over. Like it's not like it was definitely kind of a bit of a Worlds kind of lineup in some sense, or at least a European lineup. But yeah, I think if we compared more closely, me with sixth, because I think my posing was in many shots better. Like I think he could pose better for his physique, basically, is what I would say. And my condition was certainly much more. He just had more, you could say more muscle mass, at least it presented as more muscle mass with the muscle bellies and like the rounding of like quads and popping delts and chest. And he had some standout shots, don't get me wrong. I just felt like I was maybe a bit more balanced, maybe a bit more symmetrical, and the condition might have given me it. But I was told by a judge that it was very close between us two. So I'm not talking down my arse when I say, hey, I wish they'd compared us a bit closer. I could have outposed him at some point and nudged to sixth, which would have been nice to have been there. But at least that gives me the knowledge and the nod that I was in the mix of a high quality pro lineup. So anyway, I've rambled enough there, Mike.
No, not at all. And I think the thing that came to mind as well is, fortunately or unfortunately, I think the top placings influence the rest of the placings. And I think because of the nature of Babacar and how he has those round muscle bellies, it naturally makes them look for round muscle bellies and everything else in those bubbly muscle types. And I think that's what the people ahead of you had a little bit more of. So I think that was just the unfortunate thing that maybe just influenced them a little bit over you. But no, I totally agree. I think the other thing to mention, which we talked about, was you were only on stage for 15 minutes, which for a pro show could have been maybe a little bit longer. They could have potentially compared you. I know they made up their minds, but we said it where, hey, you've invested a lot of money into coming, and so have the other competitors. Could they have not at least done just some, complimentary, sort of just, moved you around a little bit more is what I'm trying to say. They could have done that, and maybe, you never know, that might have just gone, oh, they might have seen you at a different angle, seen them at a different angle, and be like, oh, actually, no, let's have a look at this a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Again, particularly me versus sixth place with, I'm not going to say the name because now I'm worried I'm saying it wrong, but me against sixth place, because when I looked through the video footage, really I was only lined up against the heavyweight and Ramon and maybe the guy that came fourth. I wasn't really compared to fifth and sixth very much. And obviously they did that at the end, but I think they could have done with running us through every pose versus they just picked a few. And like you said, the judges had made their decision, but who knows if they could have had a bit more time to have a bit more of a look at it. And I could have swayed some votes, because I know you know it as well, because you've obviously judged. For those that don't know, you judged for the MPA multiple times now, so you know what it's like. It can be like if you've not seen someone compared against someone, it could be just, oh, wow, like now I've actually seen this again. I'm going to flip my decision here because I've seen enough. Whereas, yeah, it's very rare that your first call of, okay, this guy's a 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, like that is very rare that your first call of that stays the same. You might make that call initially, because I think that's how I judge, at least, is I try and get my score sheet kind of filled out as quickly as I can in some sense. And then I will move it around as I see poses and I see more comparisons. And yeah, like you said, it was a lot for us to kind of go out there and then, yeah, not feel like maybe I got as good of a run of comparison as I could have hoped. But I do want to say that it was a well-run show. They were on time. It was late, 9 p.m. that I was on, but that's when they were due to be on. So they didn't need, there was no expectation to rush, as in it wasn't like the WAF UK where we'd ran, not that we had times on it, but I don't think anyone expected it to be midnight or later. Like I can kind of understand why that might be expedited a little bit. But for this, yeah, I felt like five more minutes would have been really nice. I definitely had the posy endurance for it.
Well, there you go. And I think that's another reason why, hey, put them on stage for a little bit longer, because who knows, maybe people would have got a little bit fatigued. Could that have influenced things a little bit? You know, you don't know. It's so hard to say. And I thought you mentioned a really nice thing when we were out there as well, where it seems that with most of the shows, pros are on at the end. But why wouldn't they have pros on towards the beginning as a sort of sign of, I don't know, just that respect, maybe, if that's the only word I can think of, but just like, hey, these are the top tier guys, they go on first to set the standard and then kind of go from there. Like, again, that would be interesting, I think.
The only reason I can think that they don't do it is because, well, maybe the only reason, but a surefire reason is because the men's bodybuilding and then the overall, and they go pro, they can then jump into that pro class.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's best, because especially for him, he was a heavyweight, so he was on, and then he was in the overall, so he was on, and then in the overall, he won that, so then he's on again. So it's like, he was clearly fatigued, but like running on adrenaline, still did pretty well there. But yeah, I don't know if you have to have the ability to be able to let them compete in that pro class, because I don't know why that has to be the case. I think, like you said, pros could be on earlier. And yeah, it's just a bit of a nod of like respect, like, hey, you guys like have invested money for that pro card and clearly lots of time and money into competing with this federation. So as a sign of like respect, we give you the privilege of being on earlier. It doesn't have to be first, but maybe not the final thing at the end of the day. Also, I don't know if they do it in part because it's like, I don't know, saving the best till last type of thing, where maybe more of the crowd sticks around. But at the same time, it might be nicer for the crowd if like you get that little bit of a kind of wow factor earlier within the day. I don't know. But yeah, it is what it is. It was unfortunate, and this would be interesting to talk about a bit. After I came off, we were then summoned, I'm going to say, for drug testing.
Yep.
And it was a urine test, and I've never had this extensive a urine test. So essentially I was spoken and went through like a questionnaire that I had to fill out and sign, and like I had to write down every supplement I'd taken in the last however long. And in fact, I forgot rhodiola rosea because I'd only just recently been taking it, and I took one tab today because I've been a bit tired. And yeah, basically I didn't write that on the form, but oh well. I wrote down the GDAs and everything that Cliff recommended I take, so I remembered most things. Anyway, so I filled that out, and then I went into a room and he was like, yeah, like strip down. And I was like, okay. So I like stripped down to like socks and my underwear. He was like, no, everything. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I'm just in this like bathroom with this guy completely naked and like arms out. He's checking under my armpits, under my legs, like every nook, crevice, everything, I guess, for drugs or something on me.
Yep.
And then he gave me this like the urine cup and whatever that I had to then pee in, and he watched me pee. And so then I took that sample into another room with someone else, and then they were making sure that I was taking everything apart. So like they were giving me the things to pour the pee into, and they weren't touching anything. They didn't want any influence on anything, because I guess ultimately, if they're touching it, it could be that they want you to take a certain one because they've tampered with it or something. I don't even think about it on that level because this is the first time it's happened to me. But I think as an Olympic athlete, I don't know, people want you to fail, so maybe that sort of thing happens. But yeah, I ended up having to pour this liquid in here and talk to him and do all of this stuff. But that ended up taking quite a long time. I felt very bad for you, Mike, because you couldn't come with me, obviously, because again, that's something that's no go. I wasn't also allowed to record at all in there. So they were like, it was very, very strict, which I think is cool. But at the same time, it took ages. So by the time we were done, it was like, I spent way more time doing this testing than I had been on stage. And I don't like that. That feels wrong to have it that way round. I don't know if there's a way they can make that more efficient. At the same time, I appreciate going through that process because I think this is the fourth urine test I've had, and I've never had one this extensive. I don't really want to do it again, to be honest. It wasn't fun, and it took a long time, but it was cool to go through it. So yeah, you told me it was basically that's Olympic standard, right?
Yeah. No, that's exactly how proper Olympic style drugs testing should be done. So when you said that to me, it didn't surprise me at all. And actually it was quite nice. Yeah, because from my background as a sports physio, we get educated quite a lot in anti-doping, because if you're working with a sports team or if you're working with an athlete, that drug testing protocol is very much part of something that you're going to have to deal with and manage. And similar to how it will happen for you, what they'd normally do is after the sporting event had happened, you'd have a doping control officer that would go up to the athlete and say, hey, this is my ID badge. You've been requested to report to doping control and drugs testing. And an athlete could delay that if they wanted to, participate in a cool down or see a medical officer or something. But then as soon as they'd done that, they'd have to go and report to the doping control, drugs testing, and they do exactly what you did. They'd be given a form that they had to fill in, where they'd have to write down all of the medication, supplements, etc. over the last X amount of time. Then they have to, because you mentioned it, the big thing that happens is tampering. And it has, I've heard stories where, people have literally got, a bag of fake urine or whatever behind them, and then they pour that into the container. And so they're doing everything that they can to prevent any sort of tampering or fake urine testing, because at the highest level, that's what happens. So that's what people try to do. So it seems extreme, but it's, again, it's necessary, and it's to prevent that. And again, like you said, you then have to separate it into A and B samples and all of that sort of thing.
That
and you have to write. Yeah, I can imagine.
It pours out so slowly. I don't know why it has to do that, but it's not like free flowing pouring. It's like drip, 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 drip. And he was like, keep going until I say stop, or whatever. And he was like, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. It's so funny.
It's like, yay, we did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you've got to even, I think, did you have to write down, are you happy with the doping control procedure and
any
stuff
feedback?
Like that? Any feedback? Again, that's all standard. Because again, sometimes if you go away to a competition in a more underdeveloped country, they might not have good procedures or protocols or whatever. And it might be like, oh, hey, my sample's been tampered because the process has been really poor. So that's why, again, they ask you to write feedback, etc., because that then gets fed back. So it's a very comprehensive process. So it was interesting for me, actually, because last year I worked as one of the drug testing officers for the WNBF, and it wasn't quite at that level. And it was a surprise for me because I was expecting it to be like that. And I was like, oh, it can't. By necessity, it couldn't be because of the sheer volume of athletes that you're testing. But now with the process that you went through then, it didn't surprise me at all. And it was nice for it.
Yeah, I think it might be in part in due. I hear the Swiss are pretty up on these sort of things, but also because that show was the 26th anniversary of it, i.e. it's been running for a long, long time, and it's a big and well-known show. So I expect they've kind of they've crossed their T's, dotted their I's with every aspect that they possibly can in that regard. So yeah, like I said, in some ways it was nice, and to experience that was very interesting. And I like being tested as a natural athlete. Like, it's good because the testing is what makes it natural. But yeah, at the same time, it was unfortunate because it probably didn't make much difference, to be honest. Everything was shut anyway at that time, so it was fine. It was just a shame you were left out there so long.
Yeah, that was the shame though, because I think I don't know what time we got back. Was it 10:30 or 11?
Oh, it might have been later, yeah.
Yeah, so
it was later than that for sure, I think.
Yeah, so unfortunately you didn't have it. Like, you wanted to have like a nice meal, and we didn't have anything.
No, even supermarkets, everything was shut. So it was like cobbling together whatever we had.
Yeah.
So it could have been worse.
Definitely. Again, it's like, it would have been nice to have done the drug testing, but maybe earlier in the day, not at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I don't know why it had to be after being on stage. I guess maybe there's there could be some things you're taking acutely to help your performance.
Potentially.
I'm not sure. I don't really know what you could take to do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. Additionally, you get access to our exclusive Revive Stronger member site, where you'll be able to watch over hundreds of hours worth of educational content. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
But no, I think I can't think other. I think the only other things outside of that were we obviously had a hire car, which really made things super convenient for us getting to and from places. It was, I think, overall, like you said, it was one of the best prepared. We were really well prepared, I think, going into it, which was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have any. I mean, if people want to do that show, it's in a gorgeous location and it's a well-run show for sure. They're on time, on schedule. I actually want to just shout out, I had a bunch of clients watching the live stream and I didn't know until they've told me during their check-in, and it was really nice. I had some people reach out to me, like Rob, for example, reached out to me because he'd been watching the live stream and just gave me some nice words, which is really, really nice. Just knowing people are watching and cared, that was quite cool. But definitely there was maybe some home advantage. It felt like in some ways the heavyweight had tons of people in the crowd and Ramon had quite a few people in the crowd as well. Obviously Babacar didn't, but I think just because he is who he is, he gets a lot of like attention and like woof. And I kind of felt like, I know it shouldn't influence things, and I brought my best to stage and I really made sure to be like present and engaged, and I was trying to hype up the crowd too. But there was, especially during the pose down, I was like, what am I doing? Like, no one here really cares like what I'm doing here, and pose downs are always awkward for me anyway. So people who see the vlog, you'll see we went into the crowd and everything, and we were encouraged to, we were told to almost. And I was just like, me and Leo were both like, not really our vibe, this sort of thing. So one thing I want to just say is, because obviously we've been reflecting on me being there, obviously you were there with me, and like I've said to you, Mike, I don't know how I would do it without you being there. It was so nice and helpful. But also I think there's value in going to shows as a non-competitor, right? So yeah, I don't know if you can speak to some of the things that you take away from being at these shows, seeing even me going through that kind of peaking process and seeing the changes yourself. It can be quite educational. So if there's like competitors or coaches, going to shows is a good move, right?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't emphasize that enough in terms of first and foremost preparation, like how, yeah, just how prepared you need to be, particularly if you're going away, particularly if you're doing a rapid backload, because like you've said numerous times, rapid backloads are quite stressful. So you need to make sure that you've got your food prepared, that you've got contingencies in place so that if there needs to be any adjustments, that you can do that fairly easily, fairly swiftly. It was really nice for me because this was the second time that I was with you. I felt I was much better at seeing your physique and seeing the changes as you got fuller, as more details got etched in. So it was really nice for me to see that and to just be like, you're much better now. I can see that. And that was really nice for me. And the same with regards to shows. So one of my aspirations is to be a judge. And I think just time developing that skill set, developing that eye of comparing people, being systematic in how you're analyzing the physique, and you can only do that through time and through practice. And that's where just being at the show and also just being with other people like yourself who are also judges or who are also experienced at analyzing a physique, you can hear what they're saying, you can hear what they're talking, what's their reasoning process for thinking, oh, they're better. And that's what's just so invaluable as well. And like I've said regarding the preparation, being behind the scenes. So, and this also helps for me as well, because I've worked backstage as well. Okay, how do people get called, into the pump up room? When do you have to be ready? How do you hold yourself, sort of thing? It's, it's really important to make sure that you're keeping an eye on the competition so that you know at what speed the classes are going. And it's all those sorts of things. And you can see the mistakes people make. And it's like, right, I don't want to be doing that. So it's all of those little nuances which just are invaluable as well. And not to mention, finally, just the connections that you make as well. Just being able to, because you'll see people, people who've competed at different shows, you might see them at one show and then you'll see them at another, and just the ability to strengthen those connections as well. And for them to see you as like, this is a consistent figure, whatever. I think that's a positive thing where you're just building a positive image in the community. So yeah.
Yeah, I think if there's any first timers listening, or rather people who haven't competed before but want to compete for the first time, hugely valuable to go to a show to just get that impression, because it's those little intangibles that you can't explain to someone necessarily. Like, I don't know how to even like how do you come out onto stage? What does a pump up room look like? Like, how does a show day tend to run? Like, all those little intricacies that differ a little bit show to show, but are kind of, stay homes to most. And it just makes you a bit more comfortable when you've been in that environment. And I think, like you said, the kind of invaluable nature of being there and watching the process kind of go through and pick up on those little intricacies that will make you a better coach. Because again, it's kind of similar to writing out a program on paper. If you don't train, or you haven't trained much, and you write out a program, you could write out something that just doesn't make sense. Like, it might make sense in your head somehow, or like I think about it like a chef writing a recipe. Like, you might be able to, I could write something up, but then actually I need to have cooked it multiple times to make sure I've got the right amounts of each thing. So it's like one thing to write out a peak week, but it's another thing to go through it, and then you pick up on all the like things that could be improved, could be better, could be clearer, for example. So yeah, I think you being there is going to have paid off big time. And like you said, the networking's nice too, all that good stuff. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to reflect upon that show in particular. I guess I can just talk about my next steps, as it were, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, we're both this is great because we've just been talking about it off air, and both of us have been very excited about this, because it's hard because I'm trying to make sure that I don't focus too much on the holiday afterwards versus the here and now, because I've been looking up a lot of things that we're going to do in New York afterwards, including, as you can see, loads of places that would be cool to eat at, And man, I've been seeing some people vlogging the food that they've been having, like these bagels they're having and everything. And I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds so good. I want to have one of those. But anyway, so I'm trying to focus on, like, obviously I'm still on the process. And so, okay, let me pick up here. So the next day after, Cliff gave me a very high calorie day of about 4,000 calories. We enjoyed a burger out, which was great. That will be in a vlog. It's actually live now for people on the members site. You can check that out. It'll come out in a few months' time for the public. So if you want to get the inside scoop, you can check it out there. And then the following day, I was on still pretty decent calories. I think it was like 3,000 or something. And then this week, I've been on around 2,400. And then I have one refeed day, which I don't know how high that goes. It's probably around 3,000 or something. I'll take that tomorrow. And then I don't know what will happen next week. But the idea was, and we kind of talked about what we thought Cliff might do for me, is to give me a bit of a break, because we dug and had pushed hard for this show. And as you said, rapid backloads are stressful. And the process of depleting is pretty stressful on the body as well. I see some people depleting like back-to-back shows, and I'm like, that's tough. That I don't know if you're going to get the result that you want from that. But anyway, so bit of a break this week. Cliff told me on Sunday probably 2 weeks of pulling back, but we'll see. He might decide that, hey, 1 week's enough. Let's get back into things. And this week's been quite nice, actually. As I said, I think I said I changed my split. So just due to volume being quite a bit lower, it just made sense to change that. So that's been a really nice change of pace. I've enjoyed training this week. I've enjoyed getting back into the thick of things. It's that. And then we have from this Saturday or Sunday, it'll be a month out, right?
Yeah, 4 weeks.
Yes. So then we'll be going to Boston. So Mike will be coming with me again to Boston. And we're flying out the Thursday. And we'll be there until the Saturday. So we'll have from Monday as basically holiday, which is why we're so hyped about that. But I think personally, I'll do better at Worlds, or I'll compare better at least, versus that lineup, because one, I think there'll be more people. So that's always nice because there's just more chance that you'll be in the mix of things. Two, it'll be weight classes. So Babacar might be in my weight class. I saw something where it said he's 82 kilos. So if he's 82, I feel like that might be heavyweight territory.
Yeah.
I can't think what the cutoff is, but I thought it was more like 80 was middles and below. So I'd quite like not to be in his class, because he's just guaranteed pretty much going to win it. He'll probably win the whole thing, to be honest with us. Like, if we're honest, I can't see someone beating him because of just the sheer mass on his frame. He looks like a heavyweight, but is the height of a bantam or lightweight. Like, come on, that tells you everything.
We said that, didn't we? Because we saw him before he stepped on stage, and he was almost either the same height or maybe even slightly shorter than me. And like you said,
5'4"?
5'4", maybe. Yeah, 5. Yeah. I'd like to think I'm 5'6", Steve, but
no, I mean him.
Oh yeah, so 5'4", 5'5".
You're above 5'5". You're not quite that. Below 5'5" is pretty small, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, so
my short kings.
Imagine being 82 kilos and 5'5". Mental.
Yeah, this is why he can compete against people in the 212 class in the IFBB pro ranks. Like, because he is like, his FFMI is, I don't know, 30. I have no idea, but it's a lot. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully he won't be in my class, but if he is, it doesn't matter. But I think I'll compare better against just a broader lineup. And I know in the vlog I said this too. I wanted to place in the top 50%, and I said that was like an ambitious goal. Like, that was a bit lofty. I'm still gonna have that, but it's as you said, it's only up from here. Like, I've come last, so anything above last place is a victory. And ultimately, it's about bringing another improved physique. And I think there is some more pinches of body fat. I think we have to be careful at this point, because my glutes are through from the rear. They might not be sharp, hard lines, and there might be a bit more to come off therefore there. But like, we got some photos of my erectors were like, there was detail coming through the erectors, and I mean, my anterior is certainly all the way through. So we don't, and that was a feedback Steph Noble actually gave me as a judge, because I asked her for some feedback. She said, like, you need to make sure I know condition is your card, but you got to keep the fullness there because muscles need to be popping. So the good news is we have a bit more time to take off a bit more fat. And typically, this is the way I view it too, is the leaner you get, the more aggressive you can tend to be with your fullness, because even if you lose a little bit of sharpness, you are so sharp that, hey, that sacrifice was probably worth it. So we almost got to 1,000 grams of carbs the day before this show. So let's see if we can push over 1,000 grams this next time. I know my body is like, I have a pretty rampant metabolism, so that's probably why I can take quite a bit. So yeah, that's kind of the plan from here.
Yeah, that's also a good point to mention, was with this rapid backload, you handled it a lot better because you altered how you cooked the potatoes. Rather than roasting them, you boiled and mashed them, and you just tolerated it so much better this time around, which I think was a massive help for sure as well.
Definitely, that was a win, mashing the potatoes into mashing them. And also, I think every potato meal had oil and or salt, whereas last time I think some of them were just like pure potato, which is pretty tough, especially when they're roasted, dry roasted. So anyway, yeah, that was a good lesson. That was good. And I liked the jasmine rice switch, and that was something I said in the vlog, and that was different, was I was much like hungrier this time. I didn't feel as fatigued through the day with this one. And it's interesting to get that biofeedback and then Cliff to listen to it and actually implement more food because you're hungry. It's not something I tend to listen to during peak weeks, but I'll have to chat to him about that and try and learn some wisdom and golden nuggets there. Yeah, is there anything you want to talk about in regards to Boston and then after that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I just also wanted to, I mentioned this on an Instagram story last night as well, but a big lesson for me this season is just how valuable time is. Again, we've got time now. So, and because you're in such a good lean condition now, you can really manipulate what you want to do. It's like, okay, you can just, if you want to try and get a little bit leaner, you can, but you can be very careful about that as well. Or if you want to kind of hold it a little bit, you can hold it for a little bit of time. And again, it's a period of time where it's not super long, where, you don't have to worry about holding it for a very long time, but equally it's long enough where you can make some changes as well. So I think it's a very nice point. And and so for me, that was just a big lesson. If giving yourself as much time as possible is just probably the biggest, weapon in your toolkit that you can possibly have for sure.
Yeah, it is a tricky one because, as we've said, it kind of depends how you get to this point. I'm very lucky that I'm still intact, if that makes sense. I don't think there's ever been a point where there's been like high levels of stress that's led to me holding on to lots of water and my physique is very fatigued. But there will be competitors listening who have dug for condition and it not paid off because they're just so heavily fatigued, and more time digging or doing that wouldn't have resolved it. And I think even we got to a point in your prep where it was a long prep where we realized that we're like, hey, if we dig further, we're not actually getting the result we want. You're not looking better for it. You're looking worse. Let's feed you up. And we got a better look, but it wasn't quite at the point of which when you were fresher. So it's that careful balance of really communicating with an athlete. If that athlete is a bit more experienced, I think they can communicate that even better as themselves. They know themselves. Like next time you go to compete, you'll know yourself so much better where you're like, oh, there's some warning signs that I need to like let Steve know or what have you. So yeah, it's having that time to be able to push and pull, as it were. Like you got to be able to pull back at certain times, because I think it would be very tempting after this show. I came last. Hey, I can get leaner. Sunday, and I told you, Sunday, I just wanted to dig. I was just like, let's pull calories down. But I knew that was an illogical, irrational decision where it's just like, that's what all bodybuilders want to do. Push harder, push more cardio to try and get leaner, but that wouldn't have been the best call. And so, yeah, it's that push and pull component where you're riding a tightrope at the end. But you're right, time is so invaluable because that does mean you can pull back. You just have to be smart how you play it.
I actually read a really nice thing that kind of chimes in with what you were just saying in terms of harder is not always better. And they use this analogy of if you're digging a hole, but it's in the wrong place, digging a deeper hole isn't going to help, you know, and it's like you've got to, yeah. And so digging more or working harder, that's not always the right thing to do sometimes. And we've just got to be we've just got to be, yeah, sensible / self-aware to know like, hey, what is the right move right now based off of everything that we're seeing, and then go from there.
As an analogy, I was trying to think of a good one. It makes me think of cars, and say you have a certain amount of fuel, and I think about fuel efficiency. So if you're trying to get to an end destination, you've only got a certain amount of fuel. Some people might be like, right, I'm going to put my foot down and go as fast as possible. But then your fuel efficiency is not good. So then you run out of gas. Whereas if someone goes a bit slower, they navigate that better, and then they can actually get to their own destination. So yeah, it's very much like that. Harder is not always smarter, for sure. Although I don't really like this hard versus smart dichotomy, because it doesn't make sense, because hard is smart. It's just the appropriate amount of hard. So yeah, anyway. Mike, is there any updates on you just before I want to make sure, because we've only got 10 minutes left of our hour together.
No, do you know what? So this coming weekend, I am going to be judging. So there is a federation called Gym Bodies, and they have their Halloween gala, which is a mixture of kind of figure, classic bodybuilding, and it'll be really interesting. It's really nice. It's supposed to be less formal in the sense that it's not kind of, you know, classic bodybuilding competition per se. So people have a lot more freedom as to, you know, how they want to do things. So to give an example, the way that they're going to judge classic bodybuilding is that the bodybuilder will come on in a sort of almost eye walk fashion, and then they're going to hit a few of their favorite poses, and then after that, then they're going to go into their mandatories and their comparisons, etc. And with figure, there's no mandatory poses as such. They can pose however they want to.
Wow.
So there's a lot more flexibility there for the athlete just to have fun and do what they want to do. So yeah, it'll be a really interesting experience for sure this coming weekend.
That's cool. More bodybuilding for you. I'm hoping this weekend I'm getting spend some time with Charlotte, relax. Barely seen her this week actually, so it'd be good to actually spend some time with her, because yeah, I told her about to finally finish, I guess we can talk a bit about New York, and I'm trying to not rub it in her face, because I'm like really wanting to be like excited and be like, right, we're planning on this day, we're gonna go see a basketball game, or we booked Thanksgiving dinner at this restaurant, look at the menu, it's amazing, I want to go eat at these restaurants. So yeah, it's kind of one of those. But we realized this from our last 2 trips where we had the Sunday to spend some time. Planning is so important.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want us basically to have an itinerary for every day that we're in New York from morning till evening, essentially. And I love that idea too, by the way, Mike. I don't know about you, but Charlotte quite likes having freedom. And I'm like, nah, as soon as there's freedom, you don't do the stuff you want to do. You miss something you want to see. So I know I don't know if did you add any gyms to the list? Have you looked at the ones that I put on there?
Yeah, so the only other ones that were different from yours were more east, so they were a bit further away. So we probably would have time to go and see them, but it depends
whether
on
it's worth the distance. That's what I was looking at. Like there's this extreme, anyone who's been to New York, I don't know if you know it, but there's like Extreme Fitness, Albany, Strength. Those 2 look pretty they're like hardcore but dingy kind of bodybuilding gyms. So I was like, I don't know what equipment they're going to have, but they're pretty central. So it's like we could wake up, have breakfast somewhere, and then go train there, and we're in New York, so we can then do anything. So it's like trying to find convenience versus making sure we're still tourists and we enjoy the sights at the same time. But we know we're going to go to Bev's gym,
exactly.
Bev Francis. So that's going to be, I don't know if it's a day trip, but it's 2 hours out from Central. I assume we're going to stay Central. I don't even know if it makes sense if we want to see the sights in New York. So
that's what I was thinking, because there's quite a few Airbnbs very centrally located. And I think, like you said, it makes sense to stay there, because you've also got 3 airports around Central. You've got Newark Airport, which is more West Coast. Then you've got La Guardia, or I can't think of the name. an airport that's further north, and then you've got JFK, which is to the east. So
And we're flying
yeah,
from JFK, right?
yeah. So, and we also, we haven't fully confirmed, but we're going to be driving from Boston to New York potentially.
Yeah, I wanted to look at what the logistics of that was, if there's any good like stop off points, and like we kind of talked about, if it can be a good road trip, because I don't know if we'll want a car in New York, if you know what I mean. I don't think it probably makes sense. So it's then thinking logistically, how do we get from our Airbnb to Bev Francis? We'll just have to figure out, you know.
Yeah.
But I guess having the hire car will make. Yeah, it's whether or not we need the hire car at all. Then, if we're,
could be handy to be fair. Maybe just not into the center. I'm thinking, like, don't drive it into like Times Square or whatever, because that would probably stress me out with all the yellow cabs and all that stuff. But it could be, potentially handy. Could be potentially handy to other areas, particularly if we want to go, like, you know, not east but west, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's more food for thought.
Have to work it out. But yeah, on the food aspect, man, there's just, New York is incredible for food, and I have good memories of some food that me and Charlotte had out there, but I know we didn't plan it out anywhere near as much as what I'm thinking to now. The problem I'm having is it's definitely driving up my food focus, because I'm like, oh my God, I need to like, I need to speak to Cliff how he intends to manage the post-show period, but I just think back to Vegas. I was very flexible, I gave myself very high calories, but it worked super well because thankfully, as people probably know, I have a pretty high metabolism. I also think, Mike, we'll probably have like 30,000 step days some days.
Probably.
Maybe not on my freaking Withings watch, which gives me a really low step count, but certainly over I imagine 20k easily, because we'll just be walking around the sites all the time, and you'll be full of calories and energy because you're in a good mass phase, and similarly I'll be post-show riding on adrenaline and enjoying a lot more food than I typically would do. So yeah, I'm very excited.
We're gonna have to get the cameras at the ready, because there could be some freaky photos full of food, some decent pumps and good gyms. Who knows?
Yeah, I definitely want to vlog some of that, because yeah, just the last vlogs haven't felt stressful at all to have to do them, like when we've been making them. I don't know about you, but apart from, I don't like that you have to film when I'm on stage, because that's annoying, because I want you to enjoy seeing me and also looking at me and like see if there's any feedback you have. But also I appreciate having the footage, because it's actually really good to have that. Some of the photos, we had the professionals photos come back, and they weren't amazing, to be honest, especially for the price paid. We're spoilt with Fivos in the UK, like truly spoilt, because he's very, very good at what he does. But yeah, if anyone has tips for New York, for like gyms,
definitely,
for things to do, recommendations, food, any of that stuff, we're booked for the Smiths. There's 3, it's a chain, but we're booked for one of those for Thanksgiving. We're planning to do probably Lion King Broadway. Yeah, that'll be cool. We want to do a helicopter tour. That's going to be expensive, but I think it will be worth it, because we'll truly get to see some incredible views and sights. So we need to book that in. Like we said, basketball, ice hockey, you mentioned, is potential. So yeah, and then we need to, obviously there's going to be some just general sites, and maybe the Gracie Parade if we're awake early enough to kind of go
7 in the morning. Gracie Parade.
It starts at 9, I think, but people start queuing to go view it and get a good sight at like 6. So we can decide if we want to bother with it or just watch it on TV. Yeah, there's some cool balloons though. I think last year might have had like Goku or something.
Oh wow!
Like, it's pretty mega. Yeah, there's like some huge balloons that pop up. So yeah, it's maybe we don't. I think maybe we don't go early. We just head over there and try and see a bit, because it's like 9 through 12 or something. So we'll be up by then, and then grab some breakfast bagels and then go train and get an gnarly pump beyond with the day, you know.
Hell yeah.
They do sweet bagels, Mike.
Sweet bagels? What are they?
So it's like, I've seen people having like a cinnamon raisin bagel, and it will have sweet cream cheese in it. So it'd be like a cream cheese with chocolate chunks in it. Oh wow. Yeah, so we got to try some of these. Yeah. And trust me, Americans know what they're doing with bagels. Like, we have our New York bagels. they are terrible in comparison
I can imagine.
to like actual American bagels. American bagels are like super nice. We're gonna have to make our way to like some sort of supermarket as well, and so that's probably gonna take a day, because we'll just be like, Mike, there's this. We'll be like, oh my god, deers in headlights. There's so much choice.
Literally, the cereal aisle for me could be the Captain Crunch, all of those sorts of things. Like, oh wow, yeah, like you said, we're gonna have to. Might be half a day just being in a supermarket.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to. You can tell I'm food focused. I'm gonna need a suitcase just to bring back freaking cereal.
Literally, I know, it's crazy. But yeah,
it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a bit Christmassy too, right?
Which I think is really nice. I actually really like the fact that it's going to be around the Thanksgiving time, because, like you said when we were off air, I've never, experienced what Thanksgiving is like in the US. So it'd be really nice to see what that's like, and just because I haven't even tried like a proper mac and cheese, like macaroni and cheese, and I just thought it might sound really simple, but just what's like a proper New York American mac and cheese like? So yeah, just those simple things I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, same. It's going to be really fun to have that experience with you, because I think we're very similar in that regard. And like, obviously we want to train, we're happy doing lots of steps, we're happy trying loads of different foods, but I don't know, if we want to go to a supermarket and make something at home, we're both happy to like do that. That will even be exciting because there's more choice and whatever. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun time. And it's like I said to you after Vegas, because in prep you're so restricted with like even caffeine and fluids and everything, you're just like your sleep pattern. Whereas like I'm just going to be like, I just want to experience New York. So if some of that has to go by the wayside a little bit to get like awesome stuff done, like it's quite nice doing it that way too. So it'll be a true like holiday for us. And
I also feel because we've done this twice now at the Netherlands and at the Switzerland and at Swiss show, I feel we've got the processes quite well ingrained, if that makes sense. So I feel the only things will of course be on it on the weekend, but I think all that really changes because we'll have the Airbnb sorted, we'll have the travel sorted. So all that really changes is essentially the location, and then just making sure, right, we do the same things. We make sure we have the potatoes, we've got the steak, got the chicken, all of that stuff,
It'll be easier. Yeah. Because Cliff is American, and so all the things he prescribes me are there. Not that there's anything weird or random in particular, but most European places have them, but I can actually get like caramel rice cakes, like the proper ones. If I need Cheerios, I can get the right Cheerios, which we don't have here. So yeah, it'll be even easier. But you're right. I know it sounds like, hey, we're getting ahead of it, and I'm like a deer in headlights and losing sight of the goal. But I won't be in that mindset. Once we're planned, it'll be kind of done. Don't have to worry about kind of thinking about it, and I'll be athlete from Thursday through Sunday, and then it will just be from Monday when start kind of chilling out and enjoying that time. So yeah, we've been chatting an hour, Mike. I think we could probably keep going. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with, or anything you want to say?
No, not at all. I think just main thing, stay up to date with what we've been up to, and I think just exciting times ahead. There'll obviously be a bit of I think these next few weeks will be a nice time where both of us have just got a chance to relax a little bit. We'll have 3 weekends to ourselves where we can just enjoy being at home, you with Charlotte and Ada, and we can just take that time, and then good to go, and exciting times ahead.
Yeah, for sure. But again, if anyone has recommendations for New York, even Boston, but probably New York because we won't really have time in Boston, we'd highly appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening. Again, just to remind people, Mike is a world-class physio on our team, and he is very specifically niched to bodybuilding. So he's perfect for anyone here. If you've had struggles with injuries and your physio locally just doesn't quite get it because they're not doing hypertrophy training and they just don't understand kind of your goals, Mike is brilliant for that. And he is an excellent coach, and his roster is getting fuller and fuller, and he only has so much time. So and his rates are only going to be going up as well because he's very, very reasonably priced still. But as that fills up, he's going to get more and more pricey. And as you heard from this, getting a wealth of experience with competitors and yeah, very knowledgeable there. So I just want to make sure people are aware that you're on the team and you're a great coach. So yeah, well, that'll be linked in the bio. So if people want to check that out, you can apply specifically for Mike or anyone on the team. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for tuning in.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality and we know how to do it. And we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.